Hello there guys, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about something very different. Usually I just do analysis content, reviews, I cover different new information, but today I'm going to be covering a plethora of subjects and criticisms, and this is going to be just a video covering all of the criticisms to do with Resident Evil 2 that the fans have accrued, or not all of them of course, but some of the biggest major offenders in people's eyes. So these will be things like the fact that fixed camera angles are no longer a thing, also the fact that Ada Wong's outfit is changed so heavily, just the topics that have displeased people a lot, and I will be trying to cover these from an objective standpoint, showing both sides of the coin, and then I will also give my own opinion on the subject as well. So that way I think each specific topic will be covered in as much of a fair way as possible. So let's start out with the fixed camera angles, and this of course, did I just try to pull off a Wesker, like, fixed camera angles? Like, I can't even do a British accent and I'm British, that's terrible. Anyway, we're gonna address the biggest offender that many people from the old franchise seem to be complaining about, which is the fixed camera angles. So I'm gonna cover this subject in, again, an objective way, and let's look at all the details. Now first off, we have to go back all the way to the original R&D video 1, the We Do It video that everyone remembers, and I do want to say in that video, it did say to all RE fans, not just to old RE fans, so there was the first hint that this game could have gone in any direction. They were already open about that in a subtle way back in the 2015 date, so there you go. And it does have Remake in the title, which of course again implies that absolutely anything could happen to the game because it's not just a simple remaster. But is there an argument to be made that fixed camera angles were falsely advertised, or that people who wanted them have a justifiable reason to be a little bit irked off or angry? And I would actually agree there is, and even in this video, as you can see about how it's because of the old fans and their continued support and all of their continued shouts and screams and all of the money that they throw at the franchise as to why the project even got greenlit in the first place. So the reason that we're getting Resident Evil 2 right now is because of most of the old school fans who wanted that game being remade. Now they also do throw out at the end of the video this little shady, oh, and we hope to get your continued money as well, and again, without giving any information for 3 years and releasing a few projects in the meantime, it does feel like they do have a reason to be angry. It was a little bit shady, and then you have the entire will be taking feedback in, and the only feedback was that fixed camera angles were wanted. Of course third person is more popular. I actually prefer it this way, to be honest. I like third person more, I'm just going to be honest about that, but I can definitely see a case being made for people to be annoyed about this and for this to be a legitimate criticism. And this wasn't the only time that they hinted that fixed camera angles would be in. They did refuse to talk about it, and they were basically riding on that wave of not wanting to let all the old school fans know that they decided to switch it over to third person view. I even remember there being a quote somewhere along the lines of, which I'm paraphrasing, "This is going to be a game made for the old school fans." However, I do think there is a very reasonable case again to be made in the opposite, that third person was definitely the way to go. It'll enhance the sales by a very large amount, allow us to see much more of Raccoon City than you would have ever been able to explore before. Like for example, you can look at the top of all these tall skyscraper style buildings, as well as the fact that it opens up unique elements like being able to critical hit specific enemy parts like William Birkin's eye for unique effects. And of course I assume there's going to be a lot of different ways this will be utilized and executed into the game. Now some people wanted both modes to work and have referenced Resident Evil 5's DLC as an example, but that game had a very clunky design. The actual hybrid camera angle option they had was very clunky, to be honest. The fixed camera angles were very terrible, and it didn't really work at all with them at a level that you could be considered professional quality, and considering the level that Resident Evil 2 is going to be aiming for in quality, I can understand now why they didn't choose to do so. So of course, I think it was the better reason is the conclusion, but I can understand why some people are angry about it, and I do believe they have a reasonable cause for that. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the profanity in the game. There's a lot more profanity in this game than ever before. Even Resident Evil 7 probably doesn't come close to what we've already seen in gameplay and trailers. Now, it is a little bit out of cue, of course, for Claire to be swearing. That isn't her type of character. Even in the literature works for Claire, she's very calm and polite all the time. She knows when to be assertive, of course, but she doesn't go around saying fuck you, fuck this. That's more of an Ethan thing, to be honest. However, it does go in line with the next criticism, which is the game is much darker. And with both of these, I just want to say, I do actually like both of these additions, and you've got to understand that characters do need to evolve over time. They need to have a personality added beyond the archetype we're used to, otherwise the personalities basically become like Call of Duty, where it's just the same thing over and over again. One of the major problems with Chris Redfield's character, for example, was the fact that he just lacked any kind of character growth for the longest time, which they then tried to address in Resident Evil 6, 7, and Vendetta. I also want to remind people that Claire and Leon are amateurs to outbreaks at this point in the series, and so I do think it adds a little bit more of realism to the entire thing. And Claire Redfield does have a family history where she's had to survive with Chris due to the parents' death, and so of course I can see in stressful situations like this, her cussing being a little bit more realistic. And with Leon, I can just see he's having the craziest day ever because, as in his own words,
"This is not how I imagined my first day."
So of course, I do think there are good points to be added for the darkness and the profanity in the game. It really adds to the immersion. This is the first time that a city has really been hit by an outbreak and all hell has broken loose. Capcom's really capitalizing on that drama, and the profanity and darkness add to that by immeasurable levels. Now, one of the things that I do want to talk about as well is the lack of an A/B scenario. I keep seeing comments pop up about this quite frequently, even up to this latest video, and I do want to address this. Now, the A/B scenario was of course very interesting in the original game, and it gave us access to a very unique zapping system, which allowed you to do all sorts of things, which allowed you to interact with the other playthrough, and of course speedrunners could use this to their advantage quite greatly, and this enhanced a lot of different things from pretty much every fan's perspective. And having that removed kinda does suck, but it does add to the level of credibility and also the canon of the narrative and story. Now we don't have to conclude what events happened and where they transpired, who did what. There won't be any uncertainty anymore, and I can really understand with them taking a much more serious stance on the writing, especially compared to Resident Evil 7, why they want this entirely to be solid, all of the foundation to be understood, and no questions left unanswered. And with the inclusion of extensions to the plot, remember we did see Ada and Leon walking outside Kendo's gun shop, it would make sense, of course, again, that they need to create a much more solid foundation than the original ever did, because the story is going to be enhanced a lot more. So there's several solid arguments for this. Of course, it would be nice if an A/B scenario is there, but then it creates continuity issues and debates that last for over 20 years. I'm also going to address the topic of Ada's outfit and attire, because of course many people have talked about this. I'm sure everyone's seen memes about it as well. It's a hot topic going around. Did I just make a pun, you know, because Hot Topic sells clothes, and okay, I'm quitting YouTube for the second day in a row. Anyway, it's a big popular topic, and I want to talk about this one. Now, Ada looks drastically different than her previous iterations, and especially from the original Resident Evil 2. Now, Capcom is not exactly unknown for doing this. I mean, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine. Claire kind of looks similar in most games, but in Revelations I guess she looks a lot different. But again, pretty much every character has gone through some kind of major change, except for Rebecca Chambers, who apparently doesn't age at all. And so essentially, I can kind of understand this one in the fact that they've changed her appearance up a lot, but what I really don't understand, which is a big part of her of course, is the color red. They decided instead to go for this beige style detective outfit, which I do actually like the look of. I just don't understand why it wasn't colored red. It would have looked just as good in that style, and it would have fitted with her character much more authentically. Honestly though, I've seen some people making major complaints about this that are way over the top, even saying they would refund the game because of this. And of course, if you have that opinion, I think it's a little bit fanatical over a character redesign choice. I mean, I hated Chris's design in Resident Evil 7, but it didn't make me want to like refund the game or something. That's just my opinion on that one. It is a little bit weird, but it's acceptable. Now, I've seen a lot of people say it's not a true remake, and I just want to say I think these people are really fanatical. They're probably just not liking the fact there's no fixed camera angles, the character design changes. There is no real definition to what constitutes as a true remake, and of course that's absolutely relative to every single individual that exists on this planet. So I'm not exactly sure how you make such a claim, considering the claim isn't even verifiable by everybody, because a true remake is different in everybody's opinion, just kind of like a good meal is. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the fact that Capcom had such an absence of information for 3 years. So again, going back to the We Do It video, I think they did announce the project way too early. Come on guys, even though the game is looking absolutely beautiful and there is no way it's not going to be Game of the Year material, they did announce it too early. Remember all of the hate trains and all of the complaints about the lack of information, all of the cries for Capcom to actually say something, even them disregarding and not acknowledging it on the anniversary. There is a very good lesson for Capcom to learn here, which is to keep projects like this that are going to be developed and then released 3 to 4 years later a little bit quieter. Maybe just announce them 6 to 12 months before they're actually going to be released. I think that's the good conclusion that we can all take in from this one, and it did cause a lot of distress. I did say that was the last topic, but I forgot to mention this one, which I do apologize for, but it's the lack of a demo. Now, I do think Capcom is very scared after all of the data mining that happened with Resident Evil 7, where, if people are unaware about that issue, Resident Evil 7 was released on PC with a demo, and after being data mined, not only did we have, say, assets and things, we had all of the script from the game start to finish, and we even had cut content and things like pictures that weren't even shown in the actual full finished product. So of course that was a huge PR screw up, and it was a huge mess up in general, because they basically released everything way before the game was even out. So I can assume they're gonna probably, if releasing a demo, do it very close to the game's release so the damage can be minimized, and that is probably the largest reason why they are withholding one from everyone. But I do think Capcom are to be criticized for this, because they did say the reason the PC demo was delayed was because they wanted to take assets out so they couldn't be data mined, and then they literally took nothing out. They didn't even take one thing out, because the entire game was there and even cut content was there. So what did they take out? All they need to do is obviously make an independent build like the one at TGS or E3, where players basically get to play from start to finish, and then the end screen pops up, and then that's all the assets that are contained within it. It's an independent build with nothing else in it, so if you data mine it, you can only see what's contained within the demo. And if they could do that and say release it in December, that would be absolutely perfect. I think we can all agree that releasing a demo right at Christmas would bolster their sales, and so it would be good for us, and it would be good for the company. Anyway guys, I've tried to give all of the angles here and tried to be as objective as possible and give my own opinions as well. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please do leave a like, a share, and a subscribe. It would really mean the world to me and help me grow. If you do regularly enjoy my content as well, please do click the bell and become part of the Bell Squad. Bell Squad, best squad. I've also got a Discord and a Twitter that you can follow and join in the description, and I'll also put it in a pinned comment, so if you want to come join, check those out as well. I just hope you're having a beautiful day. As always, take it easy and peace.